to fight GBV, you don't only need to look at politicians.
Of course.
Right? It starts with you in the home.
The home.
Where you raise even how you raise your own children, it's part of prevention.
Absolutely.
Right? So if we teach boys, if we teach girls as they grow, that as human beings we need to respect each other. It starts with respect. If I respect you as a human being, you respect me back, then we understand that I cannot just touch you if you don't want to be touched, right? And that's where we start talking about consent and unpacking consent, where we say, if I say no, you must respect my
no. Yes.
And the law is very clear around what is protected in law. And one of the institutional rights that we have as human beings, before we talk about women, we talk human beings, is that all of us in the Constitution, we are, given the right to bodily autonomy. And bodily autonomy is simply me saying, I have a right to say, yes, touch me, and I have a right to say, no, don't touch me, and for that right to be respected. Now, where politicians come in is they have a duty, right, to promote, to make that right available to me as a citizen of the country, to promote it, to uphold it, and when it's violated, to ensure that they deal with the perpetrator who then violates. And I'm putting it in simple language because I want people to see just how simple this issue is, but how complicated it also gets. So as Soul City, for us, we cannot celebrate 30 years where women are still dying. They didn't start dying now.
No.
They've been dying. But now we are saying it looks like we are turning a blind eye, right? We just spectators looking as these things are happening, especially now in the era of social media, where somebody can come live on video and say, I stabbed this woman because she cheated on me. And we just like the post because, then they get 300,000 views, they get 1 million views because we consume what is given to us on social media without actually saying, if it was my child, if it was me, would I want somebody to do something about it? So we just want to say to politicians, we are here, we know that we also have a role to play as citizens, but you have a bigger role to play. And that's why we want to hold you accountable for that bigger role that you are supposed to play.
I actually like what you said about the education and prevention starting in the home, starting with children. I remember at my son's preschool, they were actually taught about the robot. So on your body, there are colors which are green and there are colors which are red. So certain parts which are red, no one is allowed to touch them except for mommy when they're giving you a bath. So parts like your private parts, they are red. No one should touch you there. So it's actually now making the children aware that should someone now violate them, they should know that they should report. All right. Thank you so much for highlighting that. And now, before I introduce our political party that's here and the representative, I just want us to quickly. You've highlighted the cause. You've highlighted the campaign itself. Please also just tell us more about the idea of casting a feminist vote.
Yeah. So we live in a very patriarchal society. We live in a society that still believes in the oppression and subjugation of women. Right? Women, they are seen as last in decision making. They are not considered. And when we trying to fight for a society that is equal and equitable, we need to use principles that will consider everybody. And we believe as Soul City that feminism as an ideology offers us that opportunity.
All right.
And let me just unpack it a bit, because when we say it's a feminist society, we are not saying it's a society that hates men and loves women more, right? It's a society that says we know the wrongs that have been done to women, and we want to correct the wrongs that have been done to women, so that women are also offered the opportunities that men have been enjoying all this time. And so when we say we're casting a feminist vote, we are talking about a vote that understands that women have been left behind and that they need to be on par with where men are in terms of opportunities,
Absolutely.
in terms of
Gender
job
equality.
opportunities, gender equality, as you say, instead of equitable laws that will promote the rights and protect the rights of women.
I think I should actually thank you for clarifying that, because if I were to hear the term a feminist vote, I'll definitely misinterpret it. I'd definitely think it means, women, it's a women's world whereby men are left behind. So I thank you so much for clarifying that. All right, and across the desk from me, to my right side is the president of the Conservatives in Action. He is Mr. Samuel Kennedy. He is no stranger to, I'm not going to say to the show, but to the station. We had an interview with them last week, and thank you so much for making time for us today. We are on the hashtag Why Vote For You campaign, and we do feel that it is quite important to, have your view as well. Tell us, what is the Conservatives in Action SA unpacking for us, women, children, and men who are victims of GBVF?
Thanks, Echo.
Welcome.
Thanks. Just battling with a throat at the moment. I think every one of us has a view.
Yes,
Every one of us has a passion.
absolutely.
Every one of us has a fear or a phobia.
Okay.
And I think when we look at I call it abuse.
Yes.
The other form of it is called violence, but it's basically abuse.
Yeah.
And abuse comes in many forms. And one of them is subtle abuse.
Okay.
Subtle abuse is abuse that is not violent in terms of physicality,
Yeah.
but subtle abuse, which is most common,
Yeah.
is the abuse in the home,
Yes.
in the workplace, in schools, in public places,
Yeah.
and it's to do with intimidatory abuse, where people get intimidated or through coercion. 30 years later, 30 years.
Yeah.
30 years later, and I'm looking at the T-shirt, we talk about freedoms. I took it upon myself early on to look at what they call the Universal Declaration of Rights,
Okay.
signed through the United Nations, of which South Africa is a contributing member,
All right.
of which South Africa is a permanent member of the United Nations, including the Human Rights Commission. We've done literally facade. You know what a facade is? It looks nice on the outside, but the inside has got no impact.
All right.
The South African government has put more emphasis on traditional leadership,
All right.
and it's not commensurate to the population. Vis-a-vis, if we use the same emphasis, the same resources that we spend, that we articulate, that we pronounce on traditional leadership.
Yeah.
Because traditional leadership by its very nature is patriarchal. And that's the origin of where all this nonsense comes out of.
Yeah.
I've got 3 daughters, I've got 7 granddaughters. I was reared or raised by a woman because my dad was not around.
Yeah.
And that's a problem, because that's part of abuse,
Oh, yes.
where women are left to head or rear or lead homes.
Yeah.
Now, somebody
Definitely.
did an interview with me yesterday, I don't know who it was, and I used an example which is factual.
All right.
43%, 43, nearly half, of all children in South Africa don't have fathers. That's
They
abuse.
do, the fathers are just not around. Because for you to have a child,
No, I think that's what he means. That I
That's
think
what
he
I
means
mean.
absent fathers.
Yes.
They're alive somewhere, walking around acting single,
Yeah.
Yet,
Now this is
yeah.
my point. This is my point. Factually, yes. Legitimately, no. Because factually, somebody had to sort of, in order to conceive, two people need to it's called coitus. I don't want to use any other word because then it becomes too common. We as a government or a country have treated sexual offenders, men who don't rear their children, men who don't take responsibility for their children. I mean, I read an article now where it says first time sexual offenders 10 years, second time sexual offenders 15 years. But what they're not telling you is that in that system is a parole.
Yes, good behavior.
Right? And so a monster can change differently in a different environment. And so he goes to prison, and it's not prison as a prison, because it's called correctional services. So he goes there, he behaves, he gets his parole, and once an offender, always an offender. And it becomes repetitive, we have the same problem. The law is got no teeth. And we as a country, I don't want to get into the voting part, because I've always said, I'm quite a handsome guy. If people vote for me, that's fine. If they don't want to vote for me, that's also fine.
You'll still remain handsome.
Because that's democracy. But for me, you know, women, children, the aged, albinism, physically, people with physical disabilities, mental disabilities, who are subjected to the harsh challenges of South African society. That's where, and let me just say this to the CEO of Soul City.
Yes.
Government has a desk that is only active on the 25th of November. And it's called 16 Days of Activism. And for me, that's an embarrassment. I want to see more activism 365 days of the year. I want to see a review of the judicial system. That maybe we need to have, I mean, we've got commercial courts. Why can't we have courts that only deal with child and women abuse? It's possible. We've got courts for everything else. And the statistics, I read it and you can read it and you probably know it. Globally, 1 in 3 women suffer some form of abuse, whether sexual, whether physical, whether emotional, howsoever it may be. In South Africa, it's 50%. We've got nothing to celebrate. I mean, a political party should be, I'm actually embarrassed to be sitting here in the name of a political party because I haven't contributed to the well-being of an ordinary citizen. Now, I mentioned to you the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. All humans are born free. All humans have a right. I don't want to get into the aspect of don't touch, do touch, and whatever. But all humans are free. We have our own Bill of Rights that doesn't protect a certain part of the population. But let me just say statistically, over 55% of all South Africans are female.
Right.
Over 55%.
Right.
And half of them suffer sexual, mental, emotional, and various forms of abuse.
Yeah.
Similarly, I just did a quick.
Some research, all right? Yeah.
What are the 5 main causes? Because life is not about symptoms, life's about causes. We can talk about the law and what we should do and why we should do it and why we shouldn't do it. maybe we need to have a diligi jale, no bail for offenders and whatever the case may be. As a political party, that's where I believe we should be focusing. And this is where the problems are. One, what causes gender-based violence? Number one, poverty. This is fact.
Yeah.
2, breakdown of services. 3, conflict and war. 4, displacement. 5, stress in the home. Those are the key causes. Those are social ills. And unfortunately, I'm not in opposition to the government. I'll support the government in whatever they do as long as it's right. So I mean, I was on live television last week and I said, I'm not opposition. I'm not opposition. I want to be part of an agenda that does what's good, what's noble, what's right. Now, in those aspects that I've just described, one of them is abuse against women and children. That's a fundamental. Why? Because if over 55% of the nation is female, then it needs to be accorded commensurate. You know what commensurate means? It must be given the status based on the level of demographics. Right?
All right.
That if we believe in the principle of demos kratos, power to the people, then women should be in the forefront.
All right.
Now, Mark, the problem I have, if the woman raises you to be who you are today, why then, as soon as you have some power, patriarchally, and I'm not doing it for votes. If you don't vote for me, it's fine. Believe me, I'm not that type. I'm not here to canvass. I'm here to tell you the truth. And the truth is that we, as a nation, have failed a certain, if not nearly 60% of the population of this country. We should be embarrassed. We should be ashamed. We failed them. We can put 1 or 2 women ministers and 1 or 2 CEOs, like my friend here. It's not enough.
I'm actually happy.
We need more.
I'm actually happy that we have a woman CEO here. We are always, I'm always excited to see women at the forefront of things, not because I'm a feminist, because I know how hard it is that a woman has to work 2 times or 10 times harder than a man. But that's a topic for another day. Right now, before I hand over to our CEO of Soul City Institute so that she may ask you the questions that she would like to directly ask you. It's as if you were actually here a bit earlier when we were with Itumeleng and one of the parties, because we were talking about the fact that it's a concern for me that yes, offenders, they go to prison, but or jail or holding cell and come out due to good behavior. But what is the rehabilitation process mentally to make sure that this person does not become a repeat offender? So it's a bit of I won't say a coincidence, because it is a fact that many of us are aware of. We need rehabilitation. Miss CEO Phina Kodisang, I'm handing over to you.
Thank you, and
Thank you.
Thank you to my colleague. Before we go deeper, I'm
Yes.
just interested in the conservative in your party, because for me, something that is conservative, there's some restrictions you hold, some values that might not be inclusive. That's my assumption from the word itself, right? And in a society where, we want to be inclusive, looking at the rights of everyone, be it the LGBTI community, because they are a huge population that is killed because people believe that they need to be corrected, right? And we see how the queer bodies are violated and are part of the statistics that we are talking about. When you say something is conservative, I also, in my own understanding, assume that you are saying there are some things that you don't believe in, something that you hold very close to your heart. So just unpack for us what that is for your party.
Can I say something?
Yes.
I have this mental telepathy.
Okay.
So I knew exactly what you're going to say. And it's not new. Okay. Conservatism, ideologically, has nothing to do with exclusion.
Okay.
It's a fallacy. And the fallacy is born about by ignorance. Okay? What are the fundamentals? Conservative just means it's a value-based system.
Yeah.
Okay? And the value-based system is free market as one of them. It's nothing to do with individuals, eh? Free markets. Two, it has a correlation or intertwined or synergized with the rights of individuals. The rights of individuals is conservatism.
Okay.
Majoritarianism is not conservatism. That's where the difference is. Now, the principle of many versus individual, that's where we differ. That's why we, one of the only parties that talks about minority rights. Now, let me tell you where the misconception is. Everybody believes that this thing called minority rights only relates to race, but it relates to class. It relates to grouping. It relates to social aspects. That's minority. Because between you and me, LGBTQI is not a majority in this country. They are a minority grouping. We represent them.
Right.
Because our fundamental basis, cast in stone, is no discrimination against any person, irrespective of race, color, creed, class, or whatever. It's universal. So that's conservatism, as opposed to patriarchy, majoritarianism, which says whatever the majority says is correct. We say no. We believe in individual rights. I should be able, because the Bill of Rights says it.
Yeah.
It says I have the right to express myself because we're all born free.
Yeah.
Your choice. Maybe as a gek, nee. I still, as oversight, have to protect it,
Great.
irrespective of color, race, creed, or class.
I'm happy we've sorted that one out so that everyone understands that as an individual, there's a party that says, even you as an individual, even if you don't go with the rest, we still want your rights protected and promoted.
Absolutely.
And that's great to hear. Now, we were talking about gender-based violence, and you mentioned a few things that cause gender-based violence, right? And you list poverty as one of the stated reasons. And I know a lot of research has gone into looking at different reasons why we have the scourge of gender-based violence. So I'm interested to know, because the question we are asking is, you are a political party. You might say you are not interested in our party, but you are a political party.
I never said don't be interested. I just said that
you are not interested in whether we vote for you or not.
I'm saying I don't want people to vote for me on an empty promise.
Great.
Okay, that's my fundamental.
Good.
If you believe that I represent you truly, and isiZulu sithi ngishanga phakathi,
Yeah.
then bese uyangivotela.
All right.
Angifuni ukuthi ungivotela njengomuntu oyinywe. Vote for me if you know I represent you. I will always represent you, whoever you may be. I'm the son of an African woman, so I understand the plight of our people at all levels. I'm a businessman. I own one or two businesses, but my emphasis is still on the protection of all rights.
Great. I was going to now ask, that why should I vote for you as a black woman, a black young woman in this country where black young women are the face of poverty. Not only young women, but women generally, black women, because we need to locate, where we find are the face of poverty. They are the face of gender-based violence and the many other intersecting issues that comes with it, HIV and AIDS, displacement, as you rightfully said. So what is your promise to us as black women that if we vote for you, these are the things I will do to address poverty, because I know that there's a correlation between your abuse.
Okay, thanks. We're sitting with a institutional problem. Okay? And the institutional problem is a quandary. Nice word, quandary. It's a quandary that has been imposed on us by a majority government whose only interest is in what they perceive to be democracy. Now, the perception of democracy must be inclusive, right? Now, the first challenge we have, and I mentioned one of the causes being poverty, and you very well raised it, so I'm going to give you a socio-economic view that I, Samuel H. Kennedy, will tackle in Parliament. Unashamedly, boldly, no compromise, no fear. Why do the black child, in particular the black woman, live in conditions where they feel hopeless? Or let me rephrase it. They live in conditions of despair. It's despair. Despair, it's despondency. They're being attacked on the one hand by women, by men, they're attacked by the other, by the social ills. I'll give you an example. Number one, the South African government built houses. My mother's sister's daughter, her name was Togo. Okay? It's an African woman. And it had no partitions. So I walked in the door, and I walked into what was supposedly a kitchen, a lounge, a bedroom, and a toilet. Now that's inhumane, because you're basically forcing poverty down my throat. So we need to change institutionally the system. One, the system of human settlements. Two, in police stations, magistrates' courts, high courts, there needs to be provision for the majority people. Who are the majority? They're not men or male, they're female. Right? Three. And I raised it on national television. All our laws made by this government, with no disrespect, we're not hammering any political party, we're talking facts. Economic displacement, economic prejudice, economic discrimination, forget about the racial side, forget about the class, is as evident today as it was in 1960. Okay? It's evident. Black women are no different to when they were in 1958, the day I was born. My mother lived in a hostel. She was the chairman of a hostel for 25 years. I know what I'm talking about. Black people, women in particular, are still subjected to issues of dignity. You know what dignity is? Where you feel you're a second-class citizen. Now, how do we do that? We've got to change certain acts in Parliament. We've got to make law. And those laws need to reduce the power of white people. Why do I say white people? I mean, in this shopping center, it's primarily black. Right? I look at the level of economic activity. It's different to the economic level in Kalani, or Menlyn, or Africa, Mall of Africa, or Gateway. Why? Okay? Now, if the bulk of your people are, the majority are women, and they don't have the economic spend Okay? So let's talk GDP. Let's talk at wealth. Because dignity is also obtained through wealth. Social standing. A woman should never be subjected to, with her qualifications or with her expertise or with her ability or with her skill, that a male has to be a doorkeeper and demand intimacy in order for to acquire jobs. Unacceptable. And the government's silent on it. We know it's happening at every level in this government, from national government to local government. We know, simply because the system is patriarchal. And in order to change that, you've got to reverse the roles. How do you do this? It's not going to happen in the next 5 years, but change needs to occur. And change needs to occur now.
And what is your promise to that change, your commitment to say?
My commitment is very simple. If I don't put private bills in Parliament, if I don't start in my first few months of putting in private bills, I'll resign.
Okay.
I'm a businessman.
We will hold you to account.
Hold me to that.
Yeah,
We definitely will.
we are interested in what your manifesto is saying around women issues, you know, and take us through it, because some of us want to understand that, okay, if you are saying I want to take bills to Parliament to change the economic standing of women, is that in your manifesto? How are you planning to do it? Because the how is equally important. You know, I'm not interested in the malls, because I'm talking now, thinking of a young girl, a girl who's raised in rural KZN, who still needs to cross a stream to get to school, and where on the day when it's flooded, that stream is overflowing, she misses a day of school. You know, so you are right in saying institutionally there are things that needs to be put in place, because when she goes back home, she misses the protective environment that the school can provide, and she's likely going to get an uncle who's sitting there at home drunk, or, you know, unemployed, frustrated with his own life issues, who then takes advantage of the fact that this is
The ethos, the scope of the party that I lead is premised is the right word, premised on national unity, nation building, social justice, economic emancipation. That's what we stand for. Now those are values. Those are scope. It's like when you're putting a business plan. So that's the object. And then the pillars that hold it are, how do we change society? Right? And how do we change society? We've got to start somewhere. And hence I'm saying, I gave you an example of sexual offenders. Sexual offenders. The issue is not, it is, but it's not the primary issue of the jail term. The issue is we want a penal system. You must suffer the fate because you haven't paid for your sin by watching television and sitting in a prison that is geared towards rehabilitation. Because rehabilitation is not going to happen. We've seen it, statistics have proved it, research has proved it. They've come out, they're habitual over and over and over. You've got to go to Mitchell's Plain, you'll see the level of violence against women. It's even worse than KZN, what you're referring to. I come from KZN. I lived in a farm. I herded cattle. I know what it is. The level of violence against women is primarily in the big cities. It is a pandemic, and government is not doing enough. Now,
what are you doing right now? Because I want to believe that you have a party,
Yes,
you have
I
a
do.
constituency.
Yes, I do.
So I don't want to hear what government is not doing. We know what they are not doing, and we are holding them to account. But we are here with you right now saying,
so how are you holding them to account?
we engage with them. We've sent petitions.
And have they changed it?
No, I'm talking about you, because government can come and speak for themselves. We've called them in the same way we've asked you to join us today.
I'm
We've
saying-
asked them to say, come so that we can hold you to account. But now I don't want to miss the opportunity where you tell me about what you are planning. Let's leave them because they are not here, right?
But I
Let's
have
talk
to.
about what you have planned, what you believe will work, so that when I sit as a woman who's going to cast a vote, I say, he makes sense, what he's saying appeals to me, there's value alignment, and therefore my vote will go to him.
Okay, can I say the following? Because I think we need to understand the political framework. Because if we understand the political framework, we'll understand the nuances. And when we understand the nuances, we'll understand the symptoms. And when we understand the symptoms, we'll understand the causes.
Yeah.
This is how government works. We have 400 seats in parliament. 50% plus one make law. Currently, the African National Congress, whose term expires on the 28th of May, they have 58%. So they make law, right? Then you have in the framework a multiplicity or a plethora of political entities whose endeavor is to bring change, whose endeavor is to reduce the power of a one-party state. One-party state. We're in this mess because of a one-party state. Not because of my party's inefficiencies. It's because South Africans have voted for political hegemony. I'm doing political science 101.
Yeah.
Right? So we're saying, as the CIA of South Africa, I am very good in persuasion. I'm known in the political space. I have the ability to engage with my colleagues who currently are in government to consider making adjustments to the law. Right? Because my constituency is not as big as theirs. It's not as big as theirs. And I don't see myself being government. Not at this point. But I want to be part of nation building.
I hear you, and maybe you are not hearing me, so I'll tell you what women did for themselves to change the law, to influence and change the law. So we now have 3 bills that have been amended, sexual offender bills, right? Women marched to the streets. We had what we call the total shutdown. Women were saying, enough. We don't want to be killed. We don't want to be raped anymore. We are going to shut down the country. And all over South Africa, there was a total shutdown on the 1st of August in 2018, right? It was women who did that for themselves. And we are saying, because you sit in parliament where you can cast a vote, as much as you are not the ruling party, in your constituency at local level, when you plan your government to change what you are doing, what is it that you are saying? Women, this is what I'm standing for. You know, so that we can say we want to stand with you because what you are standing for is what we stand for also. Right? I don't want to hear about the ANC and their failures or whoever and their failures as much as it's part of the mix.
But it's factual.
I get it, right?
It's factual, okay.
I get that it's part of facts. But I'm saying there's an opportunity now for me as a woman who's going to vote to look at who then best represents my own needs and whose values do I find alignment with?
I'll give you, I'd like to give you, so I don't want to sound patriarchal. So I'd like to suggest as part of my advocacy.
Yeah.
Okay? Firstly, I'm the son of a black woman who was a Zulu princess. And so when you talk about the plight of African women, I'm probably as at the cutting edge of that than anybody. Right? So there's a thing called uzwelo. I know it because I had a single mother raising me. to me to be what I am today. Two, as much as, and it's quite a complex subject because it cannot be resolved in 5 minutes or 10 minutes, the issue of women.
True.
But I have said, from a plurality point of view, plurality, because we live in a world of pluralism. Women are my biggest followers are women. If I look at my constituencies, I'm probably 6 out of 10. Right? Because I understand the needs of women. Somebody asked me on Cape Talk, what's my view on LBGQTI?
LGBTQI.
LBGTQI. And I said to them, but why should I give my view? Because that's an individual choice that is protected in terms of the Constitution. My duty is to ensure that that protection is expanded. That's my duty. My duty is to ensure that I'm vocal, that in my 3-point plan, women is one of them. Right? So it's an economic 3-point plan. So it's economic, it's women and child abuse, okay? And it's how do we change the system, the issue of unemployment. I don't want to talk about load shedding because those are all issues that can be solved. But the woman issue is it's a fundamental right in the Constitution, but is not being pursued vehemently. So for me, I'm saying I'll go to Parliament. It'll be on top of my agenda on every discussion I make. Without fail, I'll be held accountable. It's not a mandate or a mantra that I take for granted. It will be top of my agenda, top of my top 3 in every debate. It's been on my roadshow. In every debate, I've been on nearly every radio station. Women and child abuse is top of my agenda, like the economy, like women emancipation, like black emancipation. Those are issues on my agenda.
Great. Before we close, as a son of a black woman, a father of 3 daughters and a grandfather of 7 granddaughters, so I was paying attention. What is your dream for the women in your life? What is the dream you have, for the women in your life, and how do we achieve that dream as a collective?
I'm 65 years old. Right? I'm stronger than guys that are 36 years old. I can outdo any guy in the gym, anyone. Right? And I mean it. When I look at my kids, I've got a daughter of 6 and a daughter of 8. I've got a daughter of 34. So when I look at what I want the aspirations of my daughters to be, right? I'm not selfish. So I believe in the principle of nation building. It must be extended. So what I want for my daughter must be extended to all women. Free, economic emancipation, ability to express themselves, the ability to lead without being asked whether you're a woman or a male. Ability to be free of patriarchy. I'm not suggesting a matriarchy. I'm suggesting a system that enables people, both male and female, to be treated equally, without prejudice, without coercion, without any sexual orientation or any sexual advances. Women have a right like every male. Let me give you an example. You won't find a male walking down the street and people saying to the male, hey, nice. You don't hear that. So why should it be to a woman? That's not a free society. We're not free. We are free when we treat everybody with respect, with dignity, with the right to be heard, with the right to participate, with the right to express ourselves, howsoever you may be. Whether you want to be celibate whether you want to be whatever. That's your right. And we have a right, Bill of Rights. And that's where I'm standing. And I'm unequivocal about it. Unequivocal. I don't owe anybody any favors. I don't need favors from anybody. I've worked to be where I am in this country. And I'm hoping every young black child achieves the same dream that I achieved. That's what I'm saying.
I think we can leave it here. Hopefully all of us, we take what we take from it, but he's speaking about free economic emancipation, free from patriarchy. We are yet to see how we achieve that, and we hope, as he continues on this journey with your party, say that you'll be able to articulate.
Can I just close with this? Because I'm one of these guys that I like to express myself. In my life, I established an organization called the Mentorship and Development Institute of South Africa, mentoring black people, black entrepreneurs. And guess what? Those all under me excelled. So I'm not giving lip service. I'm not saying because I want people to vote for me. Don't vote for me if you don't want to. But I'll tell you what, I'll still be in Parliament and I'll still make the same comments that I'm making today without fear, without favor. I'll still be there with or without other people. So I'll be there because I have a constituency.
Yeah.
And I'll make my point whether people like it or not, like I'm doing now.
Great. So women of South Africa, you've heard for yourself. If you feel he has articulated clearly how his party plans to defend the rights of women to live in a free country where they are not violated, where they are not abused, where their bodies will be treated with respect, where their rights will be promoted, and where there will be provision for those rights to be protected and promoted, then you know what to do on the day where we cast our vote.
Hallelujah.
I also hope, CEO of Phina, Kodisang, I hope you feel you've been answered as well. I hope you feel you got as much information as you would have liked to receive from the Conservatives in action. I know we also pressed for time, but I hope the message did come across.
She's lost her notes because the bottle exploded.
I just wanted to present him, Mr. Kennedy, with this memorandum that we have been giving to all political parties.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And what we are saying in this memorandum is that we urge each political party to publicly acknowledge the crisis which you have done, that we have a GBV crisis in this country, to incorporate GBV into your manifestos explicitly, right? And include strategies and commitments to combat GBV in your political manifestos, and commit to the National Strategic Plan to GBV, because it's a 10-year plan. We are almost now halfway through it. We are left with 2 years before the 5 years of the plan, and then we'll go to the next half. So we want to see action and to engage in policy development and support policies that protect victims, prevent violence and prosecute offenders, and to also promote gender sensitivity. So the Soul City Institute, on behalf of the women of South Africa, we are saying we want political parties to not just pay lip service to the issue of gender-based violence, because it is a serious issue.
Absolutely.
And to take the commitment forward and not just, ask for votes and when they get to Parliament forget why they are there.
Seho, can I make a final comment to, what's your name again?
Kodisang.
Final comment.
Okay, there's the handover of the memorandum taking place.
I accept this. I accept this and I commit to it as a political party. But let me say this to you, because I think it needs to go further than this. I'll give you the keys to my office in Parliament. So you can come once a month and engage with me on the timetable. We'll do an itinerary together.
All right.
I make the promise.
That's
It's
a
pledge.
commitment right there.
It's a
That
pledge.
is
I
a
make
commitment.
a pledge that I'll sit with you in your institute. We do an itinerary based on the 10-year strategic plan, where there are failings, and what I intend to do to ensure that we catch up to the gaps that are there. And you got the keys to my office.
Thank you.
Hashtag why vote for you. It is indeed a campaign with volume. It's a campaign with weight. It's not a light campaign. Don't take it lightly. We mean business. The Soul City Institute and the women of South Africa mean business. They're not here to play. Dear political parties, we shall be holding you accountable. We do not want lip service. We don't want lip service. We want action, and we shall be holding you accountable. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for this opportunity. I feel you have given me an opportunity to actually learn from you. I have learned so much. I know women in South Africa are very vocal. I know women in South Africa are very deprived. And I remember the march you're talking about in 2018. I remember we had to wear black. I remember that very well, and some dukes as well. So big ups to women in South Africa, big ups to institutions like the Soul City Institute, who are very, very, very not only vocal, but are taking steps and measures to say, hey,